The night blanketed the lands of Shiqi, and the wind swept down from the distant mountains, carrying the whispers of nature. The faint glow of torches flickered in the military camps, reflecting the unyielding resolve of a people preparing for war. Within the main camp, a lone figure stood silent against the backdrop of the starry sky. That figure was Zhou Gong Dan, the famed younger brother of King Wu of Zhou, and a towering figure of wisdom in the Zhou dynasty. Tonight, he faced a decision that would not only shape the fate of the Zhou people but also alter the course of history. Zhou Gong Dan was no hardened warrior, but his eyes burned with a fierce intellect and boundless compassion. He bore the demeanor of a philosopher rather than a military leader. Yet it was this very intellect that had guided the Zhou dynasty through countless challenges. Below the hill where he stood, thousands of Zhou soldiers were busy sharpening their weapons, their hearts filled with the hope that the battle tomorrow would bring them victory. All of them understood one thing: failure meant annihilation. Inside the command tent, Zhou Gong Dan summoned his generals to discuss their strategy. Spread across the center table was a detailed map of the region, with red markings indicating the movements of the Shang forces. The assembled officers ranged from seasoned veterans to fiery young commanders eager to prove themselves. Among them was Lu Wang, known to the people as Jiang Zia, whose sharp gaze was fixed on the map. Zhou Gong Dan addressed the group, his voice calm yet commanding. The forces of King Zhou of Shang are vast and formidable, but do not let their numbers intimidate you. I am convinced that no army, no matter how powerful, can triumph without the right strategy. He pointed with a wooden baton to the narrow gorge of Qingchuan Valley, a treacherous region surrounded by dense forests and craggy cliffs. Here is where we will set our trap. King Zhou, in his arrogance, will not expect us to confront him in such terrain. He will assume we are retreating in fear, but in truth, we will lure him into a position where escape is impossible. A murmur spread among the gathered commanders. One of them, Zhao, a young and brash officer, voiced his concerns. "My lord, this plan is bold, but it's fraught with danger. If the Shang forces discover our trap, we will be surrounded and crushed." Zhou Gong Dan turned to Zhao, his gaze piercing but tempered with understanding. "Do you think I am unaware of the risks? It is precisely because of these risks that the enemy will not anticipate our move. Moreover, we have no other choice. A head-on battle would spell our doom." The tent fell silent, and the air was thick with tension. Jiang Zia, who had remained quiet, finally spoke. "The Duke is right. In a moment of life and death, the victor is not the strongest but the one who exploits the enemy's weaknesses. And the greatest weakness of King Zhou is his hubris." The room was filled with nods of agreement. The commanders understood that while the plan was perilous, it was also their only chance for victory. At dawn, the Zhou army began their movements, following Zhou Gong Dan's orders. The troops were divided into 3 divisions. The decoy force, with brightly colored banners and conspicuous movements, advanced slowly across the plains, seemingly retreating. The Shang army, under King Zhou's command, quickly spotted them and began pursuit. The Shang king laughed loudly, his bloodshot eyes glinting with savage delight. "They think they can run from me? Today, I will crush these rebels once and for all." King Zhou roared, ordering his troops into the chase. But as the Shang army ventured deeper into Qingchuan Valley, an eerie silence descended upon the landscape. The birds had stopped singing, and even the rhythmic march of thousands of soldiers seemed muffled by the oppressive stillness of the mountains. Suddenly, a blast from a war horn shattered the quiet. Arrows rained down from both sides of the valley, like a deadly storm from the heavens. Cries of pain and panic echoed as the Shang soldiers scrambled to find cover. "Fall back! Regroup the formation!" a Shang officer shouted. But his orders were drowned out by the chaos. At that moment, the 3rd Division of Zhou forces, led by Jiang Zia, charged from the rear. They struck the disarrayed Shang troops with unrelenting force, slicing through their lines like a blade through cloth. King Zhou, who had always trusted in his overwhelming numbers, now found himself trapped in a nightmare. He ordered his soldiers to retreat, only to discover that the escape route had been blocked by the Zhou forces lying in ambush. The battle raged on for the entire day, and by sunset, the Shang army lay in ruins. The Zhou forces emerged victorious, their banners flying proudly amidst the battlefield soaked in blood. Yet, even in triumph, Zhou Gong Dan's heart was heavy. He knew this was but a single step, and the road to the final collapse of the Shang dynasty was still fraught with peril. As the night settled over the Zhou camp, a messenger arrived with grim news.
Zhou Han's division,
which had been pursuing the retreating Shang forces, had fallen into an ambush set by a hidden detachment of Shang soldiers. Nearly the entire force was annihilated, and Zhao Han himself was captured. The news struck Zhou Gong Dan like a thunderbolt. He knew Zhao Han's impetuousness had cost them dearly, but his greater concern was how King Zhou might use this captive to demoralize the Zhou troops. That night, Zhou Gong Dan sat alone in his tent. The flickering oil lamp cast long shadows across his face, which was lined with worry and exhaustion. He opened a small wooden box containing an old letter from his mother, the Dowager Lady of Zhou. The letter reminded him that victory was not just about power, but about delivering peace and justice to the people. Zhou Gong Dan sighed deeply, feeling the weight of every decision he had made. No victory comes without sacrifice, he murmured to himself. But I will not let their sacrifices be in vain. I swear, we will bring Zhao Han back and put an end to King Zhou's tyranny.